Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Yeah.
Can I make you move now? Yes, I can. So you can get this move in a bag of a can. I can make it round the world when it holds in your hand. Popcorn World. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. I said popcorn make you smile. Ah. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. The Popcorn World.
You're now listening to BLEAV in the ACC with Heisman Trophy winner and Florida State legend, Mr. Charlie Ward, Wave 3 TV, and Fern Creek Hall of Famer, Kendrick Haskins, and Mr. Talking Noise himself, and of course, Mama Noise's man, Lloyd Smith. And now, it's time for BLEAV in the ACC.
It's too early to sing One Shining Moment, so I can't do that. But it seems like there should be an appropriate basketball song playing right now. Maybe Curtis Blow, Charlie, they're playing basketball. Something should be playing right now as an anthem to what is inarguably my favorite time of the year, March Madness. I love March, and not just because of the birthdays and the anniversaries and all those things, but it's just a beautiful time of sports and possibilities. And I just love this time so much. So Mr. Ward is right there. I'm right here. Our brother Kendrick Haskins is on assignment, but he'll be with us in just a little bit. But Charlie, how much do you love March Madness?
Well, it's definitely a very exciting time for quite a few people because, you start looking at the bids, you getting your ticket to the dance, and you winning your championship if you're one bid league, and then you're trying to figure out if you're gonna make it, if you're on the, you tracking the bubble and all these different things. And so it is an exciting time for sure, in a lot of ways. And then some schools, teams are, playing for pride at this point, especially if they're in the tournament. So March is a time where, it's almost the end.
It's almost the end, but
they're getting excited about it.
One thing too that this time of year reminds me, that March Madness, the tournament, is foolproof. It does not matter if teams are great or horrible, if there's a front runner or not, it does not matter. These games are going to be good. Last night, we had a crazy ending to Abilene Christian versus Stephen F. Austin. That game ended on one of the craziest buzzer beaters I think I've ever seen. It was insane. But nonetheless, did you see the game, Charlie? Did you see the game?
I didn't see that game.
So the game ended. Abilene Christian missed the game is tied. Abilene Christian misses their shot. Stephen F. Austin drives down the court. They lose the ball. Abilene Christian gets the ball. They drive down the court. The shot gets blocked. And with 2 seconds left, one of the Abilene Christian players, Stephen F. Austin players, tosses it to half court, and the kid doesn't even have time to really catch it and aim. He essentially just kind of guides it in. He just catches it and guides it in. A three wins the game. And I said,
Oh,
man, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. That's the turn. That's essentially the tournament. It's that, and it's foolproof. Although I will say again, the women's tournament is going to be amazing. they if you watch the women last weekend with their championship week, I am so excited for the women's tournament. I cannot wait. I'm setting my DVR. I'm buying my popcorn. My popcorn world. I am ready for the women's tournament.
yeah, women's tournament.
I've never
should be
said that.
exciting. However,
I've never said that.
well, it should be exciting. You know, once you start getting down to like the Sweet 16, I don't
Yeah.
know if we'll have major upsets like
Right.
we may have on the men's side. But once you start getting down to maybe the Sweet 16 is where you start to see some teams getting upset. But for the most part, you're expecting a few teams to be there when it's all said and done.
The only thing that can mess up the women's tournament at this point, Charlie, is idiocy. And that idiocy could be those who are making the brackets and you're sticking South Carolina on the same side or in the same bracket as LSU, or Notre Dame is in the same bracket as Iowa. Don't do that. Give us 4 different regions and let's see them come out to the end and make this thing something special. Because I think they have a chance to have a serious moment here in time.
Well, unfortunately, Notre Dame's going to get stuck in someone's bracket, whether it's USC, Iowa.
I'm okay with them going to USC because that could be a nice matchup.
I mean, it'll be the same. I mean, when you start talking about matchups, I mean, you got Juju Watkins and Hidalgo. That's definitely one you want to see.
Yeah.
Not early, but definitely late.
At least Elite 8, sometime like an Elite 8 or something like that. That'd be awesome. But we're going to get into all of that here in just a minute. We got a really interesting show for you today. A couple of different topics to go through. But before we get to any of those, our personal group chat was kind of on fire this week. We live this thing called sports. We live it, and we love it, and we love the sports, the business of sports. We really do. And we heard some comments this week, just like you heard some comments this week, in regards to one of the most legendary, probably, well, I'll say arguably the most legendary coach of all time, definitely the winningest coach of all time, Mr. Nick Saban. And this is what he had to say in front of the government.
Things that I believed in for all these years, 50 years of coaching, no longer exist in college athletics. So it's always was about developing players. It was always about helping people be more successful in life. My wife even said to me, we'd have all the recruits over on Sunday with their parents for breakfast, and she would always meet with the mothers and talk about how she was going to help and impact their sons and how they would be well taken care of. And she came to me, like right before I retired and said, why are we doing this? And I said, what do you mean? She said, all they care about is how much you're going to pay them. They don't care about how you're going to develop them, which is all what we've always done. So why are we doing this? So, to me, that was sort of a red alert that we really are creating a circumstance here that is not beneficial to the development of young people.
So, full disclosure, Charlie, full disclosure. I had read the quote. I had not heard him say the quote. And so I had a different feeling after I heard him say it. But I want to hear what you have to say first, because we had, like I said, we had an interesting discussion and are still having an interesting discussion about these comments. But what are your thoughts on what he said, Charlie?
I mean, there's nothing he said that wasn't true. The focus has changed as far as what type of development. He didn't go into specifics, so it's hard to say. Everyone's kind of nitpicking, his comments, but he didn't go into anything specific.
Right.
And so when we start talking about where he came from, the system that he came up in, that is what he is seeing change from, people interested in development to now not first thing, but one of the things that they're talking about the most is how much they're going to get paid. And so I'm sure these conversations have been going on for quite some time in this kind of realm. However, it's on the table now and out in front. And that is what everyone's looking for, unfortunately. I very rarely hear people talking about, education, the type of education, trying to get a degree. That seems to be far-fetched in the discussion piece. But this is the world we're living in right now, and the atmosphere that they've created in the college realm, which, we've talked about this NIL versus collective. Everyone keeps saying NIL when it's actually collectives that is the one that that's the issue that people keep pointing to when it comes to collegiate sports. And their NIL deals, I see them every day, especially with Florida State, with the guys in the community doing those types of things. And then, collectives, every school that can afford it has it now.
Right.
But Coach Saban, I mean, there are a lot of coaches very similar to him. I mean, and they're starting to come out and say these things, and it's becoming one of the things that that people are starting to see, just like all of us. We're starting to see change, and of course, no one likes change, especially if they feel like things have been going well. And I don't think he's afraid of change. I just think there's something different about this change, that it's gone from 0 to like 90 or 100 in such a short period of time. There was no phase-in type of plan, especially when we talk about parameters around NIL and collectives. I think, and then transfer portal, I think all of these things have gone at a fast pace. Most times it takes a longer time to make these things happen, or a progression. But this just happened seemed like overnight. And I think that's bringing a lot of the older coaches that have the older school mentality or grew up a certain way. It's causing them to pause, and then a lot of them are, getting out, which is, their prerogative. And
I'll say this, Charlie. First of all, it's hard to argue at all with anything that he said. You can possibly argue if Nick is the appropriate guy to say it, because of the amount of money that Nick personally made. So I can understand what people were saying. Oh, well, it seems a little hypocritical for a guy that made as much money as Nick made. I get that argument. I don't know if I support it, but I get it. I do understand it. The thing that is really fascinating to me about the argument and what was said is that we're in a time now where it's not just that the NIL exists or collectives exist, because in some form or fashion, I think it's always existed. It's just now it's legal for it to exist. So let's go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off and say it that way. But now the other reality that we're faced with is, so what are we going to call these guys now? Are they student athletes? Are they employees? Are they work for hire? Should they be filling out a 1099? Like, what are we talking about right now? Because somebody pulled up an old Dion clip when he was at Jackson before he got to Colorado, and the clip talked about the collectives. He said NIL is supposed to be name, image, and likeness. So all these kids that are getting all this money, what are they endorsing? Like, where are their commercials? Where are the billboards? Where are the magazine articles? Or where are the pop-ups on your computer with their pictures or whatever? Totally agree with that. But I'll take it a step further. Because I'm in the business of Hollywood, in addition to the business of sports, I understand that we contract for hire. So when you contract for hire, you have the person fill out a 1099. They fill that out. They're responsible for their taxes. They're responsible. They're your employee for whatever time the contract says. And that's how you navigate the financial business side of all of this. So it feels to me a little disingenuous to keep calling this education when it's clearly business. And that's where my struggle with the whole thing is coming. Listen, Charlie, you said it best. When was the last time you heard somebody even talk about a kid's graduation or a graduate? Recruits don't even want to hear about graduation rate and how many guys get their degree. It has become a full-on business. And so if it is truly a business, then there are business procedures in this country that we have to adhere to. One of those is contracted employees pay their own taxes. The business doesn't pay their taxes unless they work for the university. So now what are we saying there? Are these guys employees of the university, or are they? Because basically what I'm saying, Charlie, the whole thing has shifted overnight, and we haven't had a real discussion as to what to call it. So that's why this collectives can exist. That's why NIL is run amok. That's why transfer portal doesn't mean anything, because we haven't defined what these kids are. We don't know what they are. All we know is there's a product that hits the field on Saturday mornings and Saturday afternoons and Saturday nights and all throughout the week in basketball, and they're still functioning as an old thing. And the Bible is very clear about this type of stuff, Charlie. You can't put new wine in the old wineskin, which is why this thing is bursting at the seams.
Right. Well, just to clarify, people talking about how much Nick Saban has made. That's in our world in general.
Right.
He commanded that, and he's what he's making today, he wasn't making 10 years ago.
Right.
He's done the same thing that others do. When you put
he's an
forth a
employee
great
of the
product.
state of Alabama.
Say again?
He's an employee of the state of Alabama, and he's allowed to make what his skill set says he can make.
Correct.
Yeah.
And he also said that he wasn't against NIL. So that wasn't, you didn't have that part in your clip, but he said he's not against NIL. Right. He's what he is talking about is the mindset,
right,
of those that are coming to college for the most part, and it's not geared around the type of development that he's accustomed to.
Right.
And I think even to the point where, like I say, he didn't go into specifics, but I know at Alabama and all these other programs, they talk about, handling your money, the business side of things and how to do that. But when that becomes the focal point, I think that's where we start missing the boat, in a sense of what is college and what is college turned into.
Exactly.
And so I think that's where a lot of people are afraid, not afraid, but a lot of people are, their concern is, what is college sports turning into now that we have all these different things. And I don't think anyone's are giving athletes receiving pay or anything for their services, whatever those services are. I just think it's to a point now where they didn't put in the parameters around the transfer portal. And then they added the NIL on top of it, and it became a pay for play model.
Yeah.
For some, or not for some, but for the schools now. And so it's hard to, like talk about putting the toothpaste back in the bottle.
Yeah. It's over.
Well, there's a way to try to get it in there. Put it back in there. There's a way to do it. You may not get all of it back in, but you can get some in. But I just think there has to be some parameters, and the only way that it's going to happen, and the reason they're talking to government at that level, is the only way that they'll be able to bring it back, put the toothpaste or some of the toothpaste back in the bottle. So that's why Coach Saban, we're kind of missing the point why he's there. Someone brought him there for a reason, and I do believe that reason is they're trying to get government to put laws in place, because that will override all the state laws and different things that people are coming up with. They'll be able to, say, get a blanket policy or plan in place from that level.
All right. Our brother Kendrick Haskins is joining us. Live from Valhalla or leaving Valhalla or some combination
Well,
of it?
well, I'm not Coach Junior. I don't have a driver, so I'm sitting here. I'm literally sitting here in the parking lot at Valhalla Golf Course.
Nice. But listen, there are worse places you could be today. That's a pretty nice place to be. So,
and the weather's been gorgeous here the last few days. So yeah, it's nice out here this morning.
awesome. What are your thoughts about Nick Saban's comments?
I kind of think I see where he's coming from, and it's just weird to me just to see, so we talked about it, is somebody who's made so much money, who literally had a clause in his contract that he's always the highest paid coach in college football, talking about people always wanting money and complaining about it. That's just a walking contradiction in itself. But the message, it's kind of like good message, wrong messenger. But
Yeah.
I've always been one like, look, if you want to go get your money, go get your money. I'm not going to be in your pockets. And so I would imagine that there are, the thing is, going to Congress and everything, I agree with that, because I think there does need, like Charlie said, there does need to be a blanket law, and because it's different from state to state. Some teams, some schools have advantages when it comes to NIL over other schools just because of the laws in their state.
Right.
And so it does need to be more uniform, and there does need to be a blanket law. This is the law. This is how it's going to go, and we go from there. And so, like I said, putting you, like Charlie said, you'll be able to put some of the toothpaste back in the bottle, but you're not going to be able to get all of it in. And it's still going to be, no matter what you do, there's always going to be shady characters around, because there's money to be made. And if there's money to be made, there's going to be shady characters around and involved in it. But the more you can limit it, the best. And I think that's part of the reason why we have NIL at this point, to be honest with you. Because, it does eliminate some of the shady stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Rex Chapman just talked about in his book that he was getting paid at UK back in 1986. And so, I think it eliminates that part a little bit. There's still some underhanded stuff going on, but at least now it's more out in the light and not, in closed shadows and hiding in, brown paper bags and stuff like that. But yeah, it does need to be more uniform.
Just to piggyback off of that, one of the things I know not bashing him, but we're talking about Coach Saban. One of the things I can say is he was at an establishment for a long time. And so when we start talking about loyalty, the things that he values, of course, a lot of that happened because he was winning and being successful and bringing in quite a few resources for the university. That is the reason. That is the reason why he was paid the way he was paid, because they saw value in him. And I don't think, as I mentioned earlier, I don't think he is not in favor of individuals, student athletes, having that same type of favor. But what I think he's starting to see or missing out on is the, I don't say loyalty, but just being able to consistently have a group that you know that you're going to be able to develop for 3 and 4 years. I think that's where he's coming from. Like I said, everyone's bashing him because of what he may have said from a development and making money and those types of things. I don't think he's talking about that part of it. I think he's just talking about being able to have student athletes there for a certain amount of time to be able to develop, all areas, some consistency, some commitment, because that is who he is. That's what he did. I mean, he was there for, I don't know how long he was there for at Alabama, but he was there for quite some time. Even though he did jump to go to the NFL for hot second.
Right.
And he switched a few schools over the course of time. And I think even with that, he still feels as though student athletes can have their rights to be able to do whatever it is. He's just talking about he misses the opportunity to be able to develop the student athlete at the way they're accustomed to doing it.
Though,
Yeah, and I think,
go ahead, Kendrick.
and I think part of it too, Charlie, and I'm kind of guilty of it too. It's kind of society. We didn't see his whole statement. We get bits and pieces of stuff on social media, and we kind of go on that. I've been guilty of it before, and that's the way of the world today. It's not right, but it's kind of with the society we live in right now.
Right. It's reality.
But because I think at the end of the day, he's saying kind of the same things we've been saying about the transfer portal. Like, kids do deserve the right to come and go, but you can't just be going willy nilly. You got
Right.
players have played in 6 schools in 4 years and stuff like that, and that's where where he's talking about with the development part. Like, how can even for the player themselves, how can you develop if you're always jumping ship, constantly getting new coaching, getting different philosophies? Somebody might want to change your game to fit their style, but it's not necessarily benefiting you, and you're constantly changing. How can you learn anything if you're constantly jumping ship? So I think that was probably more the crux of what Nick was talking about, more so than the money aspect. But in today's society, when it's social media and all that stuff, we just get the quote or the bite or whatever that's going to get the most traction, and that's what we get, and that's pretty much what happens with that.
And I mentioned that as well at the beginning. So I'll definitely piggyback and co-sign what you just said. The one thing I would say about it as well, it's hard to argue though against some star athletes who are coming from some circumstantial parts of their life. Like if your life is a certain way, I can almost understand you approaching NIL in a certain way. Like if your immediate family situation is a little dire, then I can understand you as an individual saying, here's this opportunity that's right in front of me. I know the ultimate goal is something more professional, but here's this opportunity now that's right in front of me. I got to take advantage of this right now. And I would also argue it just a little bit pushback to Nick in this regard. I think had this happened 10 years ago, it'd be the exact same problem. So it's only coming to light because it's now, but it's I think this has been bubbling under the surface forever because we've complained. I know, Kendrick, you and I have complained for years that man, they need to get paid. They need to, somebody needs to give these kids compensation for all the money that they're giving.
And
Now
I
we
still
didn't know it
think the
was going
schools
to
need
do
to be paying them.
Right. We didn't, and then we didn't know it was going to turn into this, but
Right.
but we always thought there should be. Listen, I feel like Florida State owes Charlie a check right now.
Yes.
So retroactively,
Mhm.
and I'll keep so. But I understand what Nick is saying about the loyalty part because there was still an emphasis during this journey of an education, or at least a semblance of it, anyway. And now it feels like that's just going to the wayside completely. Now I don't know what this is now. I can't even define it.
Hey Charlie, can I always wanted to ask you this, and I've probably asked you this before, but I know you couldn't when you were playing, but now since you're no longer at the school, do you get a percentage of the number 17 jersey sold at Florida State or anything with your name on it?
Yes, I mean, I've done some deals here lately where the 17 jersey has been sold, but that's, they've been special deals. So those were, some name, image, and likeness from old school times. But those deals, they come to me directly. They're through either the college or personally that they sell to the college as well. But it's not life-changing money. I mean, it's money to be able to
You deserve
share
back
with
pay.
others, of course.
You deserve back pay from '93.
I know a lawyer named Ward that maybe could help you fight for your back pay, bro. Just if you're interested. I don't know if you're interested, but just I hear she's pretty good. I hear she's pretty good.
If they do that, that NCAA football ain't coming out in this summer.
Exactly. Because I'm playing with Charlie Ward. I don't even care.
I missed that. I missed you breaking up.
Oh, I said I know a lawyer named Ward that could help you get your back pay in case you're interested. Just let me know.
I missed it again. Sorry.
You missed it again? Okay.
I mean, when you play it back, you'll see it.
Yeah. We were just saying we know a lawyer named Ward that could help you with your back pay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say this because you keep breaking up, but even with EA Sports back in a few years ago, I was getting something for being on a game.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That's cool. I mean, that's very cool.
I may have won a game or two using you on EA Sports.
I'm just
back
saying.
in the day.
I'm just saying. All right, we're gonna transition a little bit because as you can see, I'm wearing my University of Louisville shirt because I am in support of the decision that went down yesterday. It probably went down long before that, but it was made official yesterday that head coach Kenny Payne was let go. But don't feel bad for him because for his 12 games that he won, he was given $8 million. So that's not a bad – listen, if you're going to fall up. So there you go.
Basically, what's that, $1.2 million per win?
It's pretty good.
Not bad.
It's not bad. But surprisingly, Kendrick and Charlie, there are very mixed emotions on the internets about his firing. And I'm seeing some old school people saying they didn't give him enough time. He should have given him a couple more years. Some So I'm curious to know what you guys think. We've kind of let it out before what we thought, but just you guys got any issue with the him being let go?
Well, my thing is, I've talked about it is it is a little bit beyond the wins and losses, but just on the surface, it is hard to sell to a fan base 12-52. I mean, 12-52 is 12-52, and that doesn't even include the two losses in exhibition play that they had. And
To Division
so,
two teams.
yeah, they lost to Kentucky Wesleyan. I mean, you can't lose
Right,
that game.
right,
And then you factor in this year they lost to DePaul, and so it's hard to sell that to a fan base, especially when it's a fan base that's used to winning, like Louisville. This is a team. This is a place that won a national championship just over a decade ago, and
yeah,
so and it was just number one in the country. What, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when Chris Mack took over, and so it's hard to sell that to a fan base. And then, there's little things here and there that I think if Kenny had had a head coaching job before this, he wouldn't have made some of those same mistakes. It's like, sometimes you might be right in your opinion or what's going on around you, but you don't voice it. Like the whole Tyler R. Johnson thing with the tights, you don't, that should not have gotten out. And he says it
right,
in a press conference. So it's just little things here and there that, if you really take a wide view lens of this season, if he was in better favor with the fan base, they could have spun this season. I mean, you had Trenton Flowers leave right before the season start. You lose your big man for the season early on, and he's basically out for his career most likely. Then JJ Trainer, who's one of your leaders on the team, was one of your best players coming back from last season. He goes down for the season. You had so many injuries here and there that you were forced to play walk-ons and stuff. You could easily spin that to sell to the fan base to come back for another year, but there was just so many missteps taken by Kenny that just rubbed people the wrong way. And some stuff was his fault, some stuff wasn't, to be honest. But
right.
at the end of the day, when and then you end the season on an 8-game losing streak when 4 of those games were at home, and all of those games you look at were winnable games against teams that had losing records in the conference outside of Duke. You end like that, I mean, it's hard to sell to the fan base a third season.
Well, and then to make it worse, when you go to the press conference and they ask you, do you deserve a third year? And your answer is, well, when I walked to the program as a new head coach, I talked about I needed everybody on the same page. We sort of forgot that. I talked about how I'm not going to let you blame me. I'm standing up here by myself. I need all of Louisville with me. We sort of forgot that. I talked about it going to take time, and I'm going to watch and see who jumped on and off the Titanic. We sort of forgot that. That's not the best statement. That's not the best
Especially
statement.
you can't call the program the Titanic.
Right. That's not
You
not
can't
the
do
best.
that.
That's not the best. It's not the best statement. I Charlie, I know. Listen, first of all, this is not just Charlie Ward, the Heisman Trophy winner. This is Coach Ward as well. So, Coach Ward, I know you have strong feelings about this. So, please express how you feel about this particular situation.
Yeah, of course, I'm not a big fan of 1 or 2 years for any coach. And I keep hearing about 12-52 and all those different things. Of course, our times are different, and people, in this day and age, they feel like they sometimes have to cut their losses early as opposed to late, whatever the case may be, to help save their jobs, which I totally get. But I'm just a big believer that if you hired me, and I keep saying this, especially in these bigger jobs, if you hire me, then you need to stick by me. and then we need to go down together if that is the case. But in this day and age, that is not always the case, and I don't think it's been that way. Sometimes it's always been, how can I move on from someone? And so if you're not in the boat, as Kenneth talked about, if you're not in the boat, then it's okay. Just let me know in some form of fashion. But I just think 2 years for a program that was not in a good place. From what I saw, it wasn't in a good place, and it was going to take some time uh, to 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 um, to bring it to fruition, or to the point where people felt like it could be successful. Um, and the next guy probably may have some rope to be able to push the program forward a little bit longer, because of whatever it is, finances. But I I'm not against people making decisions based upon what they see and feel. I mean, that's their prerogative. I just don't understand how, if you bring me in, you're not going to stick by me, at least when the criticism is there. And that is just my belief. Um, but not everyone's loyal. And when we talk about loyalty, it is what it is, and that is not something that happens a lot these days. And I just know, uh, I mean, it's tough, and as they say, it's tough in these streets. Um, when you're trying to
Yeah, it's tough in these
trying
streets,
to make it,
Charlie.
and do the things that you feel is right for the program. And he did say that it's going to take 3 or 4 years to get it turned around.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for him, he didn't get to the third year, and that is just unfortunate. But it's the same. It's the same thing that happened here at Florida State with the football program. They brought in Coach Taggart, you know, after Coach Fisher, and they didn't give him, a long time, even though the person that hired him, left out the door, so he didn't have anybody in there to fight for him, even to have another year. But of course, they brought in Coach Norville, and he had all the support, and he's earned the support, but he had all the support he needed, even when he was struggling, because people were talking about his job early on, when he wasn't playing, when they weren't playing well and they were losing games to Jacksonville State and all these types of things. Everybody was talking about his job, but he was able to, resurrect third, fourth year into some long-term success, and now everyone wants him. I mean, he's getting pay raises because other teams or other schools are interested in it. So I just think, to each his own, and people have to make evaluations of their deal and make decisions. Unfortunately, some people get cut out.
Well, part of the problem is too, though, 'cause a lot of things, because people point to personnel and point to the players and say, well, he didn't have that much talent. Louisville's recruiting class coming into this season was the number 6 class in the country, and it's the number 6 class in the country with uh, transfer portal guys. I mean, I think Caleb Glenn's a freshman, is a true freshman, and Tyler Johnson are a true freshman. The rest are all portal guys, so they all had experience. And so the product on the court too, on top, getting away from all the off the court stuff, on the court, every game is the same thing. They go out there, they get down by double figures at some point in the game. They come fighting back, and then they lose at the end of the game. And it's like turnover after turnover. Even in the NC State game, where the team shoots like 57, 58% for the game, 8 for
Yeah.
8 from the free throw line. Sky Clark goes for 36, but they lose because they keep turning the ball over. And they keep and like you can understand that, it happens from time to time. I mean, it's just basketball. But that was every game. And so
Yeah.
the on the court product was not, and some of it did come down. And I don't want to be too critical of Kenny because I love Kenny. Some of it though came down to, and I honestly believe it is because Kenny did not have head coaching experience.
Oh
It's
yeah.
little things. It's little things here and there, both on the court and off the court. I think if he had head coaching experience before he got here, he wouldn't have made some of those same mistakes. I think if he was, which I highly doubt he'll head coach anywhere else because I don't really think he wants to in the first place. But if he were to, I think he would be a better head coach at his next stop than he was here, just because he's got that experience. He's gonna learn. You don't have to be so honest. you know,
Yeah.
then you also learn, some of the on the court adjustments you need to make.
There's a reason why they call it coach speak. Um,
Right.
but I'll say this too. Oh, I I don't really know if he was actually the AD's guy. This was a weird set of circumstances where a groundswell of support came at a weirdly critical time where the program wasn't doing great, and also when there was a administrative transition. And you could almost, I'm not going to use the word bully because I think that's too strong of a word, but strongly suggested is probably more accurate to the AD that you hire this guy to calm the waters that had kind of started rising up. And so I don't know if he was hired because he was actually the AD's guy. I think he was hired because he was the people's guy at a time where it looked like the people were ready to kind of revolt, if you will, if I can say it that way. And kids, you were there the whole time in the middle of it, so you understand what I'm saying. It's a weird. And by the way, that's not Kenny's fault. That is not his fault. That's just the way it happened, and it normally does not happen like that. An AD, a new AD, it's not uncommon for a new AD to want his guy. So that's understandable. But this AD didn't necessarily get his guy. He got the guy that people wanted, and he gave it to him. And so in his mind, he's thinking, I gave you what you wanted. Didn't work. Now I'm going to get my guy. I'm not going to lose my job on your guy. If I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to lose my job on my guy. Right.
There's a lot to be said about that. And I mean, now Josh did in his press conference yesterday, did say, Josh Hurd is the athletic director. Josh did say that, he made that hire. That was his guy. He said the right things.
He said the right thing publicly, but privately, we all know.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And like you said, there's a reason why they call it coach speak. Maybe he was being honest. Maybe he wasn't. We don't know. We don't need to know. But you look at Josh's position, what he's been thrown into. He's come in, Satterfield was not going to get it done. Josh got lucky that Cincinnati went out and took Satterfield off his hands. So he was dealing with Satterfield. Then he's got to hire a basketball coach. So he comes in just on the job and has to hire coaches for the two most lucrative programs on campus. And so he's in a tough spot too. And so, yeah, like you said, like you said, Lloyd, he's looking at it. He won't admit it. He'll never admit it 1,000 years. But he's like you said, I'm not losing my job over the guy I hired for y'all.
Right. Right.
So,
Right. Right.
there's a lot of
Right.
truth to that. He'll Josh will never admit it. Josh is a cool customer. He's very savvy, especially media savvy. If you watch his press conference yesterday, and
Yeah, yeah,
so
he was good. I mean, he
he's
said
very
all the
good.
right things.
He's gonna say the right things, but like you said, and I, if I was in the same boat, I'd be thinking the same way. I'm not losing my job because I hired a guy for y'all. So
Yeah.
there's probably some of that in there too.
And that doesn't and let's be honest, that doesn't normally happen. An AD doesn't get hired and then have to hire what the fans want. That doesn't normally happen. So this was a weird set of circumstances, but that's what he walked into. So now here we are, and then the list is already out, and it's kind of a weird thing. The names that you said, you mentioned. Kendrick that are out. They're out at the top of the list. Matter of fact, let me pull up what I have. I don't know if I believe
Scott,
this list.
Scott
True
Drew
leads
is
the list.
he's the top of the list.
Yeah, he's at the
I
top of the list.
personally don't. I'm not confident they can pull that off just because it's Baylor, it's Texas money. They got all the money in the world down there in Texas, and
Well, and then
they
the
don't
other
have
thing
income
is, I just
tax.
don't know why he would do it.
And there's that part of it too. He's got to make that. I mean, money aside, he's got it made at Baylor. He's basically built that basketball program. He's already got a
exactly.
national championship, and it's a football crazed state. So he doesn't have the pressure on him there that he would have here. He doesn't
Yeah,
have to go. He doesn't have to come back and rebuild not only rebuild a program, rebuild one of the blue bloods with a
right,
with an insane fan base. And oh, by the way, you have John Calipari 80 miles down the road.
right.
So,
Uh,
uh,
yeah, I just don't understand why he would do that. But Charlie, other names that are on here: Nate Oates, Chris Beard, Mick Cronin, which kind of feels a little more realistic.
not when you look at
Steve.
that buyout.
Well, the buyout. That's the thing about that one. That buyout's insane. But Shaka Smart. I I don't know. Eric Musselman is another name. Then after a while, it just gets ridiculous. Kelvin Sampson, Bruce Pearl, Jay Wright, Billy Donovan. You're not getting any of those guys. But I don't know. What do you think, Charlie? Oh, you muted, Charlie. There you go. Can we hear you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
you. There you go.
All right. So, to me, when you put Kelvin Sampson, your list should be null and void from just having him on the list. Like
Why is that?
there's no credibility to having those guys on the list. Why would Kelvin Sampson leave Houston?
They ain't going after Bob Huggins. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, there should be no credibility.
That makes no sense to me. Like, some of these names make zero sense. I agree with you.
Put those guys on the list. Like, that shouldn't even be a thought for somebody to put that on. I understand what they're doing. I totally get that part.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying they lose all credibility when they put guys like that on the list.
Yeah.
For a job that they just got rid of a guy in 2 years. Not saying that he's different. These guys are different. Yes, they are different. But I just think those names at the top I can live with. But when you put guys that are having great success at their school and you think that they're going to leave to go to a program, to me, you don't even put that on your list. You lose all credibility when you put those guys on your list, in my opinion.
Kelvin's not leaving the number one team in the nation to come to Louisville.
Right.
Right.
I'm just saying. But I mean, like, Scott,
I think Dusty May is probably the better fit.
Who is that?
I think Dusty May at Florida Atlantic is probably the more realistic fit.
I would agree with that. I mean, that's to me, that would be a good good hire. I mean, if you're going to hire someone, I mean, he would be a good hire because of his success. But then again, who knows? Because he's going from FAU to Louisville, and we all know we say we've seen this time and time again where we say it's a good hire, and then 1, 2, 3 years later, I mean, they've had that same coach before.
Yeah, my biggest fear with Dusty May is that feels almost like a Satterfield hire, in that he may not understand what he's walking into. Like the expectations in Louisville are not the same as they are at Florida Atlantic, and so you got to come in ready to win. And do you want to go through that again with a guy? But again, it's $8 million that you're about to pay Kenny Payne. So I don't know how much flexibility you have to
well, Josh said in his press conference that, you know, the money is not an issue as far as paying somebody, but he's not going to break the program to hire somebody. Which
the money is always an issue.
Right. Well,
yeah. I hear what he's saying. Again, coach speak sounds great. The money's always an issue.
Right. And honestly, that's part of the reason why Scott Drew is so appealing, because his buyout is only $2 million compared to everybody else. I mean, Mick Cronin's is like 20. So you just got to hope.
I saw Jay Wright's
name on if he gets fired. So.
Yeah, and I saw Jay Wright's name on this list. Jay Wright ain't leaving CBS.
The reason why Jay Wright's name is on the list is because him and Josh Hurd have a relationship. Josh Hurd used to work at Villanova at one point. That's the only reason why he's on the list.
Jay would be probably
Jay Wright's not coming out of the booth.
I just can't imagine he would do that.
No,
unless he just feels
like Charlie said, some of them names like Billy Donovan. I don't know why. Every time there's a coaching vacancy in college basketball, Billy Donovan's name comes up. Billy Donovan hasn't coached college basketball in 15 years, something like that.
Maybe that's why he's coming up though, because he's not mediocre, but he's an average NBA coach.
I'd say he's doing a heck of a job this year with the Bulls. They're a playoff team with a roster that is not exactly the dream team.
Yeah,
and you got. Levine's been out. You got Ball has been out for 2 years now, and you still got them, and they're out there competing. I've watched a few of their games. They compete.
They play hard every game.
They're not at the bottom of the league. So, and then at least finally people got through their heads that Brad Stevens is not going to come out of the GM office to go and recruit 16-year-old kids.
Not at all. Not at all.
So
not at
at least his name's not on there. But just looking at it, and that's the other thing about this whole thing is outside of Scott Drew, there's not a home run hire out there for him. Because Chris Beard's got his baggage. Even Jerome Tang at Kansas State, he's got a little bit of baggage too. And both of those guys just signed extensions, so I don't know what their buyouts would be either, because Chris Beard just signed an extension the other day, and Tang signed an extension I think about a month ago. And so after you get past those names, I mean, I think Oates at Alabama, I think he's got an insane buyout too. And so at this point you looking at maybe a Musselman or maybe or Dusty May. It's just at the end of the day, when you break it all down, it just feels like Dusty May is probably the more realistic candidate.
The only reason why I would say maybe Bruce Pearl could possibly do it is because he may have a Charlie Strong-like feeling toward his circumstances, meaning that I'm sick of playing the background to football when my program is actually better than theirs.
Well, that's turning it at Auburn, apparently, because I've talked to a few people who have been to games at Auburn, and they're like, this is the most insane atmosphere they've been in. They've ever been in.
And he's done a phenomenal job.
They are falling in love with basketball at Auburn. So
he has done a phenomenal job at Auburn. You could argue it's better than what he did at Tennessee. He's really done.
Because Tennessee at least had a history.
Right. Exactly.
Auburn's history basketball is Charles Barkley, and that's
Charles
about it.
Barkley, and that's the list. Right. So interesting. Real quick before we get out of here, I
Maybe
do want
Coach
to
Junior is available. Coach Junior, what's your buyout at FSUS?
yeah, we need to know. Let's put those numbers together, see if we can come up with something.
Unfortunately, I'm not on the market, especially for someone that's not loyal.
I mean, you're gonna turn down that?
Yes. Because
You turned down Valhalla? You got Valhalla?
You have free membership.
Trust is a big issue, especially in relationships.
Fair enough.
If you're gonna hire me, then I'm gonna expect you to back me when times aren't good. And so I just feel there's distrust happening to save your behind. And that is how marriages break up. That's how relationships break up, based around trust. And so if I sign on the dotted line, I'm expecting you to have my back. And I don't feel like that was, if we're going to go down, let's go down together. But I totally get why people do what they do. I understand it. But no.
Well, just FYI, we're going to do the brackets on Monday. It's going to be a lot of fun. You don't want to miss it. Okay. Can we talk real quick?
Nice promo. It's a nice promo.
Only because I want to get to the fun part real quick, because we've talked doom and gloom for like a whole hour. So I want to do a little bit of fun stuff. Let me just tell you, we said it last week on this show that the way Notre Dame was rolling into the ACC tournament, they could win that thing. Now I'm going to go a step further. They're going to be a hard out. They're going to be a hard out because
some of the ladies.
I think Notre Dame's going to be a hard out, and for one reason and one reason only. That girl, that young woman, Hannah Hidalgo, she's got pure ice in her veins. I was stunned the way she played against NC State. I'll be honest with you. I thought she would have.
She's a killer.
I thought she would have felt the moment at some point. She never did.
Feeling the moment being too big for her. That ship has long since sailed. There ain't no moment too big for that girl.
That is not a thing.
There's not a moment too big for that young lady.
and Kendrick, right before you came on, Charlie mentioned we were talking about the NCAA. Please don't muck this up and stick Notre Dame in the same bracket as South Carolina. All that. Separate this as much as you can so we can get a beautiful Final Four. But Charlie did say wouldn't be bad to see USC Notre Dame 1-2 in a region. I was like, yeah, I would like that very much. I would like that.
Would either one of them get a number one seed though?
I think USC is going to get one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they're going to get one. I think they're going to get it.
But there's going to be some crossover at some point. You just want to try to get the games to where Iowa's going to have to where they can at least make it to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, hey, look, the top three seed, the first three of the Final Four are going to be Iowa, LSU, and South Carolina. So we just
no question about it. No question about it.
Unless they do something stupid and put one of them in the same bracket, which I don't know how they do that. That's going to be three of the four.
Yeah, right. I think those three will for sure be separated. It's what you do with Notre Dame, Stanford, USC, Tennessee, USC. How does that flow out? That's going to be the X factor right there. But I'm so excited about the news.
So who they saying are the top four seeds? I know South Carolina, Iowa, USC.
Will they give LSU a number one?
I don't think so.
I
think
so.
USC.
If they give them that's the thing. If they give them a 2 seed, they're gonna have to be in one of their brackets.
Right.
Right.
They're not going to put them in Iowa's. They're not going to put them in Iowa's bracket. I do know that.
And they're not going to put
them in
South Carolina.
Right.
That's
That's not going to happen.
Iowa and South Carolina's bracket, so they'll be in somebody else's bracket.
That whoever that other number 1 seed, their number 2 seed is going to be LSU.
So I'm just curious. Let's just take a quick look at Joe Lunardi and see what he's got going into or Cream. I guess this isn't Joe Lunardi. This is Charlie Cream. I forget. I know Cream does one and Lunardi does the other. He's got South Carolina, Iowa, with Ohio State in South Carolina's, UCLA's in Iowa. I like that. I'm happy so far. And then you've got, am I going too fast? Yeah, USC, Texas, Stanford, LSU. So he doesn't have Notre Dame as a 2 seed. That's interesting.
Where's he got Notre Dame as a 3?
I can't imagine. Yeah, he's got them as a 3 in Iowa's. I'm okay with that.
That makes sense. I'm
okay with that. Yeah, I'm okay with that. That makes sense to me. If it plays out like this, this is perfect. This is perfect. Where's USC at? USC's in Portland.
I don't know.
USC's number 1 in Portland.
And they're the opposite of Iowa. So we could get, based on Charlie Creams, a USC Iowa final, which I am here for.
Final or semifinal?
Final. They would meet. The only way in his bracket USC and Iowa could meet is in the final game. Huh?
Where's Florida State?
He's got Florida State as an 8 seed. Playing Iowa in the second round.
If they get by Alabama.
So he did them no favors.
We can beat Iowa.
Say that again,
I don't
Charlie.
think you believe that, Charlie.
Wait a minute, Charlie. Hold on. Just wait a minute. Say that again, Charlie.
We can beat Iowa.
Well, listen.
And that was a Charlie Ward humble flex.
And I'm not sure how humble that was, if I'm being honest.
We can mess up the whole bracket.
Listen. Yes, you would. Oh my God. That would be.
You know me as an orbiter of chaos. I'd love to see it.
Would that be the biggest? That would be the biggest upset of all time.
No.
Of course.
Yes.
And then
the all-time leading scorer, Kendrick,
and then
goes out in the second round.
Then she would. And then she wouldn't be the darling of the television network.
And according to Jay Williams, she wouldn't be great.
He would say that. He would absolutely say that. So my final question to you guys is: can the men come close to putting on a tournament as good as what the women are about to put on?
Yes, it'll be in a different way though.
It'll be a very, very different way
because
it's not gonna be as good as women.
The women's games won't, as I mentioned earlier, the women's games probably won't get interested until like the Sweet 16.
That's true.
However, the men's game, there could be some interest a lot sooner because of upsets. And that's what I mean by different. Because in the women's game, you want to have those main names and draws to the tournament. But in the men's game, it's a little bit different when it comes to, the excitement. Everyone's drawn to the upset and how far, who's going to be, FAU and San Diego State this year. And so it would just be interesting to see that. But we can't allow South Carolina to lose. We can't allow Iowa to lose.
Right.
We can't allow LSU to lose because or even USC. USC may, but when you start thinking about those how they draw those schools and those names, how they draw, if they're out, I mean, yes, it gives someone else another opportunity to win it all. But man, could you imagine not having not USC, but USC probably could lose, but having South Carolina not in the mix?
Oh my God.
Right.
It's over.
You know what I mean? Like that would be I'd say devastating. That would be very tough for the mainstream market, especially if Iowa loses early.
I mean, Iowa more so than South Carolina, because
that's true.
somehow South Carolina's flying under the radar and they haven't lost a game.
If I had to guess, the bracket will that Iowa and South Carolina end up, regardless of Iowa seeding, their path will be relatively easy for at least the first round.
It won't be like the way they set up the girls' Sweet 16 here in Kentucky, where the top two teams in the state are meeting in the opening round of the Sweet 16 today.
Oh my God! Yo, look at that!
Welcome to Kentucky. Yeah, Sacred Heart, who I've told you about Sacred Heart.
Sacred Heart's very good. Yeah,
they play George Rogers Clark, who's the number 2 team in the state tonight.
Are they in the same region?
No, the way Kentucky does it is 16 regions, so that's what the Sweet 16 is. There's no class system in basketball in Kentucky, and so they have a draw when they pick out the Sweet 16. It's just a draw, and so their 2 regions got matched up in the first round of the state tournament. They don't do a seeding.
I would have dropped that number as soon as I peeked down and saw it. And there's no way that would be happening.
We have to protect the purity of the Sweet 16, Lloyd. What's wrong with you? That's crazy talk.
So now you have a Final Four. You have a Final Four game in the Sweet 16.
Mm-hmm. You have a championship game in the Sweet 16.
Right, you got the best game of the entire tournament is tonight. Probably. That's insane. That's insane, man. That is insane.
And y'all don't have a shot clock.
No. With Sacred Heart, though, you don't need it. Because if you try to hold the ball, they're gonna steal it anyway. Donna's gonna pressure you if you try to hold the ball anyway.
That's good. That's good. Well, listen, it's gonna be a great weekend. We'll know everything we need to know by Sunday night, and it should be a fun time had by all brackets. So be filled out on Monday. We'll be doing our own little bracketology show as well. Who we shouting out today, guys? Who we shouting out today?
I'm shouting out my Seminoles for winning yesterday afternoon, excuse me.
Here comes Coach Ham. Here he comes. Doing his March thing.
Yes, I hope he can pull off another win tonight. Today, at 12 o'clock against the number 1 team. It's possible. I mean, we played some good close games.
Anything's possible.
But
I think they can do it, because I don't have any confidence either Duke or Carolina, to be honest with you.
There's nothing about Duke or Carolina that says that they're going to make a run. Nothing.
Mm-mm.
So who knows?
We need their lack of playing for the double bye to show up tonight. Today.
Absolutely.
Congratulations to your alma mater, Lloyd. Congrats.
First of all,
Morehead State.
That is correct. That is correct. And by the way, we are back-to-back OVC champions. Let's be clear.
Yeah, you are.
Could you please sink your chest in a little bit? I mean, you got to stick it out.
Hey, give yourself this, because you never give it to yourself.
I am worthy of this today.
And that was a humble flex.
I don't even mean to be humble. I am not humble in this.
Charlie and I are always unfair victims of said flex.
Listen, I'm not even trying to be humble on this one. Now I am full on flex with this. And then I have one more. That's an interesting one. Shout out to Plano East High School in Texas, who broke a long-standing record in Texas and went 40-0 to win the state championship in Texas. And by the way, with some impressive basketball. They played a brand that was amazing. Yes, sir.
How many games you say they played?
40-0. They are four. They won. I don't know.
How they play?
I have no idea. Listen, Charlie, I was just
Charlie's reaction is fantastic.
Charlie, I was as stunned by the numbers you are. I was like, 40? What, they playing a college schedule? What are we doing right now?
They must have played a ton of tournaments.
They must have. They were ranked. They're ranked nationally. They're ranked nationally. I think they were ranked 5th.
I would hope so.
Yeah, yeah, they were ranked 5th.
But most, like in our state, we can only play 25 games.
That's what was so shocking to me about the number, because I'm saying I thought there was a limit. Like I thought you couldn't play.
Like maybe because Texas is such a big state.
Or something. Huh?
Maybe because Texas is so big, they probably give them a little bit more leeway.
Maybe, I don't know, but they broke a record.
But they can't have a shot clock.
No shot clock. No shot clock.
But
again,
come on, Charlie, we got to protect the purity of the game.
Right. But again, one of those teams that doesn't really need it because they're going to take the ball from you anyway.
Right.
They took the ball from, I think they won by an average of 16 points per game. And even in the tournament, they won by an average of 16 points a game. They were really, really good. So shout out to Plano East. So there you go. Kendrick, who you shouting out, brother?
Well, I'm probably going to get a humble flex, but I'm going to shout out our guy, Travis Hunter, the Paul Horning Award winner for this year. He was very nice, very polite gentleman when he was in town, and it was an honor to be in his presence. I will
let Charlie decide your humble flex fate.
You see how much I danced around it.
And that was a humble flex.
Led that because
Josh said, of course,
because we had pictures and all of that. I mean, that was
Mr. Caitlin Clark over there. Don't think I missed your IG page the other day.
And that was a Charlie Ward humble flex.
Forgot.
Hold on. How did I get into this mix?
As soon as you said there was pictures, I was like, "Oh, hold up."
You didn't think we saw that Caitlin Clark flex, bro?
I didn't share those pictures in our group. That was a national social media.
The beautiful part about the humble flex is that it can come at any time.
It's like El Chapo. It sees all.
It sees all. It sees all.
It's omnipotent.
I saw it and just filed it away because I knew at some point.
I did the same thing. I didn't say a word about it.
Didn't mention it at all. I just filed it away. I was like, "Oh, Caitlin Clark, we taking pictures? Okay, no problem.
Yeah, that's gonna come in handy.
No problem at all." By the way, I have one more humble flex to give myself.
And that was a humble flex.
I'm giving myself that one for my 100-year-old grandmother. Shout out to Grandma who's having a special day celebration. She's already had 2 parties. Now she's going to have a special day at her church this Sunday. People are going to come out and celebrate her and tell her how great she is. So shout out to Grandma. 100. She cracked the code.
Congratulations and happy birthday.
There you go. There you go. All right, guys. We will do it all again. We'll have a whole bunch to talk about on Monday. Have a whole much more to talk about on next Thursday. Until then, that is the great Charlie Ward. That is the great Kendrick Haskins live from Valhalla.
In his hot car.
Yes, he sacrificed death for you. We'll see you next week. You've been listening to Believe in the ACC with Charlie Ward, Lloyd Spence, and Kendrick Haskins. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share from the Noisemakers page on Facebook and on YouTube. And you can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, and wherever podcasts can be heard. And